Everybody knows I hate her. It is not a secret that I would like to kill her.
They're the undercover tapes you won't believe.
The important thing about this is it has to look like an accident.
A hit set up not by the mob, but by a scheming wife.
Why don't we plan to do it Wednesday afternoon?
Murders for hire, by spouses out for revenge. Let's push these ordinary couples to the edge.
Say goodbye to Naomi, Ken. Say goodbye. That's for real, man.
I was shaking. It was fear that was running through me. It was my life. It was life or death.
Dateline's got the secret tapes that trap them in the act.
No!
What do you think would have happened had the police not got wind of this?
I would be dead.
Desperate spouses, chilling crimes. When love goes wrong, it can be murder.
You know how many people say, I'm going to kill my ex-wife? Believe it.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Stone Phillips. It seems like the kind of plot cooked up by the desperate housewives of Wisteria Lane, or maybe by a shady sidekick from The Sopranos. Hiring a hitman to bump off your spouse. But it happens in real life more often than you might think. You're about to see some chilling crimes committed by seemingly ordinary people, and the evidence is all captured on camera. Here's Chris Hansen.
He's the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. It's just insane. But it needs to happen.
You're watching Murder for Hire in action, brought to you by hidden police cameras and microphones.
This car is total. It's on a trailer. Maybe it could fall down if he was trying to unload it or something.
The location, Peachtree City, Georgia. The solicitor, 37-year-old Courtney Jacob. The target, her husband, Bobby. Nothing in their wedding photographs had hinted of what was to come. Courtney and Bobby had been friends for several years before they went to Arizona to tie the knot in a spiritual Native American ceremony. She, a driven businesswoman and riding instructor, he, a telephone company employee and owner of a small farm. Together till death do us part.
He's got this car.
Which for Courtney apparently could not have come soon enough.
There you go.
November 22nd, 1999, just 3 months after their wedding. Courtney meets with a hitman to plot her husband's murder. What she doesn't know is that the acquaintance she asked to find a hitman contacted police. The man in the car with Courtney is actually an undercover agent with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
How's things going?
Fine. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
She said, happy birthday. And I'm listening to it, and I'm just going, I can't believe I'm hearing this.
Supervising agent in charge, J.T. Ricketson, says he sat open-mouthed in the surveillance car as Courtney lightheartedly gave his undercover hitman all he needed for the murder. A box with photos of her husband, Bobby, as well as $500, the first payment toward the $20,000 hit.
So you talking about doing something where knock him out, put him out something, then put him up under there and let the car come on him? Did he have to sell?
Yeah. I mean, you could go over and say, I've heard that this car is for sale. Can you show it to me? You know, done.
Okay.
Now, he's tall. He's about 6'3". He's extremely slow reacting, slow moving.
What stuck in my head was how cold or calculating that she was when she discussed the violence of having her husband killed.
And the important thing about this is it has to look like an accident.
And we're sitting there saying, gee, I hope my wife wouldn't do like this.
Why don't we plan to do it Wednesday afternoon?
Wednesday afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
Day before Thanksgiving. And you're good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't want to shoot him. I don't want to do it. Because I will go to jail, and I'm not going to jail for this jerk.
You might think a case like Courtney Jacobs, while sensational, would be extremely rare. But this drama of ultimate betrayal plays out across the United States hundreds of times a year. Often, the characters are ordinary people, a troubled wife, an angry husband, a business partner. In the cases you'll see tonight, the hitmen are actually undercover cops. The result? Some of the most chilling and incriminating police undercover videos ever made. And it doesn't stop there. As you'll see, sometimes what happens after the arrest is just as bizarre and unexpected as the murder for hire scheme itself.
Murder for hire has been part of American society since its beginning.
Professor Jim Black of the University of Tennessee is an expert on contract killings. There's a tendency, I think, in society to view this crime as something that happens in the lower economic level. Right. But that's not reality here.
No, not at all. Not at all. Murder for hire is a middle-class crime. The people who engage in it are very often working and middle-class people. They're otherwise respectable people. They've got decent jobs.
Workaday folks.
Right.
What makes these people think they can get away with it?
I think they have this illusion that because they are being introduced to somebody who is an experienced stranger, that that person is authentic. And they don't ask a lot of questions.
Go!
Courtney Jacob had no clue she was talking to an undercover cop. In fact, the video evidence was so incriminating, the prosecutor says he knew he had a slam dunk case.
It's the best undercover videotape I have seen in 25 years of prosecution.
The prosecutor said the motive was money. In fact, just days before meeting the hitman, Courtney prodded her husband to double his life insurance. The prosecutor dreaded the moment he'd have to show the footage to the man Courtney wanted crushed by a falling car.
At the end of the tape, I was really expecting him to get angry with her, which was not what happened. He looked at me and he said, I need to go to the jail and talk to her and get her side of the story. When he told me that, I told him, I said, I think you just got her side of the story. And to make it very clear for you, she was not planning on you weren't going to be there.
But to everyone's surprise, Courtney's husband Bobby said he was going to be there for his wife. Remarkably, Bobby came to his wife's defense. The woman on the videotape, he said, could not be the woman he married. Courtney, he claimed, suffered from delusions and paranoia.
Your husband says he still loves you.
I love him.
Courtney tried to plead guilty but mentally ill. A psychiatrist testified she had a history of mental instability, suggested that some of her behavior might have been the result of a horse riding accident when she fell and hit her head, and that Courtney told him she tried to hire a hitman because she thought her husband was for Courtney's husband. He took the stand and asked the court not to send his wife to jail. But for the judge, the tale of the tape spoke louder than a husband's plea. Courtney Jacob was sentenced to 3 years in prison. When she was released in 2001, Bobby was waiting, ready to resume their life together. Stayed together. Both refused a Dateline interview request, but said their breakup had nothing to do with what Bobby still insists was Courtney's momentary lapse of reason.
It's the craziest thing I've ever done in my life.
But the agent who watched as Courtney sealed the deal
But it needs to happen.
says Bobby was just a man in love, and love is blind.
He sees her through rose-colored glasses, I guess.
Thank you.
We had the blinders off when we saw her.
Our next murder-for-hire case seemed open and shut, but an accused ex-husband insisted it wasn't so, and his daughter wanted desperately to believe him. But how could he explain evidence like this?
Coming up,
He would say to me, he'd say, one day you're just not going to have a mother.
a family in a bitter divorce. Things get ugly.
A devoted groom, a beaming bride, and a smiling little girl so happy she finally had a dad.
I was daddy's little girl.
Melissa Pollock remembers how excited she was back in 1985 when her mom, Noemi, married her stepfather, Ken. He was an up-and-coming financial analyst, and life was about to get much better. A beautiful house in the Atlanta suburbs, a pool in the backyard, and soon a new sister, Kendra. But after 11 years, the good life came to an abrupt end. The marriage crumbled. Ken Pollock moved out.
He wanted us to live with him. And, we weren't going to leave our mom. And so slowly the relationship just kind of split apart.
The divorce got ugly. Ken Pollock claimed his wife was demanding too much child support and alimony. Stepdaughter Melissa would catch glimpses of his anger, moments she now regrets dismissing.
He would say to me, he'd say, she doesn't stop this, one day you're just not going to have a mother.
In 2000, Melissa says her stepdad disappeared, along with the child support. Without it, the girls and their mom struggled. After almost 3 years, Noemi Pollock finally had enough. She tracked down her ex-husband and had him thrown in jail until he came up with the $50,000 he owed. And that's what led to this.
Look up. I can't. Oh, hey, what's up, man?
July 1st, 2003, the visiting room at the Martin County, Florida jail. Ken Pollock is talking through a video conferencing system to an inmate he had first met when his ex-wife had him jailed. Now, Pollock was out, and out for revenge.
Did you find a different way, or is that still the only way to... No, that's the only way. That's the only way to deal with her? Yeah.
The only way, a hitman to kill Noemi. Inmate agreed to find one, gave the plot a code word, Phase 1.
Look, I can't emphasize enough, though, how rapidly and quickly, Phase 1 needs to move.
Okay, Ken.
I can't emphasize that enough.
In phone conversations over the next few weeks, Pollock sounded frantic at times as he pushed the inmate to make good on his promise to find the right hitman for the job.
We really need to talk, okay? Now, Ken, on my word, he's going to do this.
Good.
You want it to look like an accident or head up?
The former of what you just said.
It's the former of what I just asked? What, is somebody around where you can't talk?
Accidente.
You want it to look like an accident?
Of course.
Say goodbye to Naomi, Ken. Say goodbye.
But before he would pay any money, Pollock demanded to see proof that his ex-wife was dead.
If you were given a picture or saw an obituary or something, that would...
I want to see independent confirmation. I want to see confirmation from your guys.
Okay. Tell me what confirmation you want. I need to know.
We're staring at it, man.
Okay, the camera.
Video.
Okay, video.
Video.
Almost 2 weeks later, this photograph arrived at Pollock's doorstep. His ex-wife, shot in the head, slumped over the kitchen table in a pool of blood. Confirmation that his lethal plot was successful. Even better for Pollock, police on the scene called the death a suicide. Ken Pollock might have thought his scheme was a success, but just a day later, sheriff's deputies were pounding on his door, a search warrant in hand. But how had they known about the hit? It turns out the inmate Pollock had hired to arrange the killing had been cooperating with authorities all along. And what about Pollock's ex-wife Noemi, pictured in that chilling photo? Well, right after detectives first learned of the plot, they made a phone call.
I said, we have to do something to save your life. Someone in jail wants to kill you, and it's your ex-husband.
As you can see, Noemi Pollock is very much alive and very much part of the ruse to catch her ex-husband.
They asked me if I was willing to do a photograph.
A photograph?
The photograph would prove to the person who was hiring the hitman that I was dead.
Noemi agreed to fake her own murder. She met with detectives who came equipped with a digital camera and a spray bottle full of artificial blood to stage the crucial photo.
They had me slumped over a table. They put a dab of blood, fake blood here, so it looked like a bullet wound, big chunk of it, and then they sprayed blood all over. They would do a digital on it, and they would say, no, that's not enough blood, so they'd spray more, so it streamed down my neck and in front of my face and in my hair. I was shaking. It was fear that was running through me. It was my life. It was life or death. He had my dead picture under his bed when they arrested him. Can you imagine? How do you sleep with that under your bed? He had no remorse. The only remorse is that he got caught.
Noemi Pollock's life had once held dreams of an early retirement alongside her loving husband, but becoming the target of his murder-for-hire plot left her in a dark world of depression, always afraid that even though her ex-husband had been arrested, he might try to hire a contract killer again. Every day getting out of bed was just the most horrible feeling in the world because I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I shut down. It felt like
My life was ruined.
Once gregarious and friendly, Noemi retreated into anonymity.
I don't want anyone to really know me. We live where no one knows our address. I work in a place where I don't want anyone to call me except my children. We have to be very quiet and very private.
But maybe the most difficult part, she says, was trying to explain it all to her two daughters, Kendra and Melissa.
I asked him why he did this. Why to my mom, why to my sister, and why to myself. It just makes no sense. I don't understand it.
To think that he could be so angry at us, so hateful towards us, the people that loved him probably the most, it was just heartbreaking.
Melissa couldn't believe the stepfather who taught her right from wrong was capable of ordering a hit on her mom. She went to jail to confront him.
He said, I didn't do this. You're my baby, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that all of this is happening to you and to your mom and your sister. I love you guys. I'll always love you guys. I want to believe that he's innocent because I love him.
Did you try to hire someone to kill your ex-wife?
No, absolutely not. No.
We spoke to Ken Pollock at the Martin County Jail through the same video system he allegedly used to set up the hit on his ex-wife.
It was reprehensible behavior on my part. Trying to scare her.
You were trying to scare her, you say?
Of course. It was to scare her. It was to try and upset her. That was the whole point.
I want to see independent confirmation. I want to see confirmation from your guys.
Pollock insisted the video evidence did not prove he tried to have his wife killed.
We're staring at it, man. Okay, the camera.
Help me to understand how it makes sense to hire someone and then demand a picture of your ex-wife dead, and then you say you're going to use that picture to scare her?
That's not what I was demanding. It's not what I was demanding, Chris. I wasn't demanding anything.
You get a photograph that looks like your wife has been killed, and then you leave money on the front porch for somebody to pick up. A hitman. What other conclusion can you draw here?
You say it was a hitman. The authorities say it was a hitman. I certainly wasn't hiring a hitman. Never did. Never happened.
At his trial, Ken Pollock took the stand and told the jury that he was set up by his former cellmate, that police entrapped him, and that if the jury listened to all the video and phone conversations, they'd understand he never intended to have his ex-wife murdered. The jury didn't believe Ken Pollock. On December 3rd, 2004, it found him guilty of solicitation to commit murder. But he still maintains his innocence, and he implores his ex-wife and children to believe him.
It's easy to believe what other people are telling you, especially when it's such a terrible thing. It's harder to have faith.
You talk to a solicitor, they're going to tell you, look at me, I'm not a killer.
For his research on contract killings, Professor Jim Black has talked to dozens of people convicted of murder for hire.
They're going to tell you in the face of overwhelming evidence that they are being misunderstood, that isn't what they meant.
Is this denial common?
Yes. The solicitors are very deceptive people. They are living in a world that they want desperately to control, and when that world breaks apart, about the only thing they can fall back on is to say, that's not me.
Will this ever be over for you?
No. No. This is a person that's a part of our lives. Even with what he's done, he's always going to be a part of our lives.
It's the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah. How could he?
Say goodbye to Naomi, Ken.
The verdict might be in, the trial over, but Ken Pollock could be out in as little as 4 years, and Noemi and her daughters say they will live the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders.
This is what I told him when I saw him. I said, you live in prison, but we live outside in the world, and we're in prison too. We'll never leave that prison.
Kendra, will you ever forgive your father?
I don't think I can after this. I love my mom and my sister more than probably anyone on this earth. And after what he's done, I don't think I can.
5 years ago, another daughter had to ask herself the same question. But to forgive the father who tried to hire a hitman to kill her mom could mean alienating the person she loved the most. Coming up later, the most dramatic undercover tape yet, and the story of a family's struggle to move on.
Coming up, a respected doctor's deadly plot, Operation Murder.
Let me tell you this, if I could kill this guy, I would. And get away with it, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'm committed to finding him and separating him from his assets possible, and then somehow eliminating him.
Okay, all right.
Here in Orlando, Florida, land of fantasy, a case you almost couldn't make up. A respected surgeon, father of 4 with no criminal record, tries to hire someone to kill a business associate. But instead of a hitman, the doctor meets an undercover agent, 4 hidden video cameras, and a microphone.
We're going to pick him up in Europe and then turn him over to some Russians who were after him to let them take care of the problem.
It almost sounded like an international spy conspiracy. But 66-year-old Dr. David Mackey was no spy. He was a pillar of the community, a member of a renowned classical choir, and the volunteer doctor for the local high school football team. But behind the squeaky clean image was a man who wanted revenge. The doctor had lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to a business partner who he said convinced him to invest in a shady venture. And though the doctor sued him and recovered most of his money, he decided that to kidnap, torture, and kill his nemesis would be a better form of retribution.
Do you want the body to be found, or you want him just to be just gone, disappear? If we just make him disappear, it's going to be harder to get the obituary for your proof.
Well, I don't need proof. I'll take your word for it.
The first thing that went through my mind was disbelief.
This detective, who has posed as a hitman 6 times in the last 18 months, was in the driver's seat. He's currently involved in another undercover operation and asked us to conceal his identity.
Did you think maybe there was a chance that at the first meeting with Dr. Mackey, you'd find that this was a big mistake, that there's no way this guy could really be interested in hiring a hitman?
I think maybe deep inside I was even hoping it was a big mistake. It was actually quite disappointing to know here's a man who has dedicated his life to the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. And in 1 second,
there's only $1,000 here.
He's handing me $1,000 for the initial payment, and I'm counting it out to make sure it's all there.
It turns out there was another reason Dr. Mackey was so determined. He'd become convinced the former business partner he now wanted dead had already hired a hitman to kill him, and perhaps his wife as well.
Let me tell you this, if I could kill this guy, I would. And get away with it, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I have trouble killing an animal, all right? A little critter. I have no problem killing this son of a bitch who put me and my wife at risk.
You don't think this is a situation where this doctor has been pushed to the limit and is in some way criminally not responsible because of his mental state?
My own sense would be no more than other people involved with murder for hire as solicitors. They're pushed to the breaking point by their problem, but once they see the solution as murder for hire, they become pretty clear-minded about what they want done.
Half in 20s, half in 100s.
Excellent, excellent.
Shortly after Dr. Mackey made his final payment on the $5,000 hit, the undercover unit swooped in for the arrest.
The look he gave me was like his best friend had just betrayed him. I think he was totally stunned.
Caught red-handed, the doctor pleaded no contest to the charge of solicitation to commit murder.
My regret is that my actions have had such adverse effects on others.
The minimum sentence in Florida for hiring a hitman is 4 years, and you might think that based on all the damning video evidence, the doctor would face at least that. Not in this courtroom. The judge said it would be a waste of the doctor's talents to lock him up, so he departed from the guidelines, and in a controversial decision in February 2005, he sentenced Mackey to a year of house arrest, probation, and community service. There would be no jail time for Dr. David Mackey.
Is that justice, in your opinion?
Our job as police officers is not to elicit punishment. Having said that, I know that there are a lot of people in prison today that are doing a lot more time for doing a lot lesser crimes.
Well, right now I'm to the point that I think the only way to solve it is an accident.
Okay, do you want to just hurt in the accident?
Dead.
Horrible but resolute words from a 40-year-old pharmacist. A prescription for murder dated May 20th, 1999. But this was a respected member of the community. By all accounts, a loving father of 4. How did it come to this?
Jay Roach was going through a bitter divorce with his wife Lorraine in the small Utah town of Spanish Fork. He thought that a hitman could be the answer to all of his problems. His attempt to hire one in this hotel room would make for one of the most compelling police undercover videos you've ever seen.
Sergeant Skip Curtis was posing as an out-of-town hitman and following the action closely. 2 hidden cameras, one in a radio on the table, the other in an alarm clock on the nightstand.
All along, a team of fellow officers was watching and listening from the hotel room next door, waiting to arrest Roach if they got enough evidence.
And they almost didn't when Jay Roach suddenly picked up the radio containing one of the hidden cameras. But fortunately, he didn't notice the on-off switch in the back.
If she would let me have custody of the kids and back off, just let me have custody of the kids and back off, I would be happy. I'm behind on my child support because it just, paying everything has really just sunk me. And I want out. If you got any good suggestions, I'm open for them.
Skip Curtis gives Jay Roach a number of options, including just having his wife roughed up. But in the end, Roach is interested in just one thing.
Well, right now I'm to the point that I think the only way to solve it is an accident.
Okay, do you want to just hurt in the accident?
Dead.
It was an upstanding member of the community up to that point. In a way, it's like looking into a crystal ball or looking into the future, because you know how it's going to ruin their life if they follow through with what they started.
Pathetic thing to do. I don't know how things ever got so screwed up.
But Jay Roach seemed to be at the point of no return. He said it wasn't only money or kids, but an ex-wife who he believed had cheated on him for 8 years during their marriage.
Everybody knows I hate her. It is not a secret that I would like to kill her myself.
As Roach left to get the first payment for the hit from his car, $1,000 of stolen pills from his pharmacy, Skip Curtis and his team in the adjacent hotel room got ready for the arrest.
The bus signal was, I would use the word Christmas in a sentence.
Once you leave, there's no calling this off.
And have I got a guarantee here that I'm not going to get into any of this? I'm not.
You don't have a guarantee they're not going to come talk to you, because I can't tell you what anybody's going to do.
Okay.
All right. Well, you'll have a Merry Christmas this year. Guarantee you that.
It's almost like he had ran into a brick wall. There was stunned disbelief. You could see that his mind was going probably so fast that it had actually stopped for a minute. It was a look of shock and surprise, almost like you'd seen a ghost.
What happened next even rattled an experienced undercover cop like Skip Curtis.
Oh, please kill me, just kill me. Just kill me.
That good, upstanding citizen just got pulled off from the pedestal that he was on. And that was probably the darkest moment of his life right then.
What do you think would have happened had the police not got wind of this?
Oh, I would be dead. He was serious about it. I'd be dead.
Lorraine Roach remembers her emotions as she watched the undercover video.
A divorce is one thing, but a contract for murder?
Still shocked me, but didn't totally surprise me. I was sad that it really did happen, but I could predict it.
It all started, Lorraine admits, with an affair. A temporary escape, she says, from what had been a miserable marriage. But she insists the affair lasted only a year, not 8, as her ex-husband had proclaimed to anyone who'd listen. Driven by guilt, she had confessed to her husband, sought forgiveness. They went to marriage counseling, but to no avail.
The marriage counselor looked at him and said, if she were to slit her throat in front of you right now, would that be good enough for you? And he said, no, it wouldn't. I got the message right then. There's not anything I can do.
Lorraine filed for divorce. A custody battle ensued, ending in Jay's murderous plan, caught on video for the world to see. But right after the story broke in her tight-knit Mormon community, it was Lorraine's now public adultery that was also treated as front-page news.
I felt like I was actually walking around with a, scarlet letter on my chest.
Did you ever consider leaving this small community? Just getting out of here?
I didn't ever consider it. Well, you know what? You don't run away from your problems. You don't. And I don't know how far I would have had to go to feel safe. If somebody wants to have you dead, they can get you if they want. So I figured I was going to stay here.
But that resolve was tested the day the court sentenced her ex-husband for his crime. All Jay Roach got for trying to have his ex-wife murdered was 1 year in prison. Lorraine wondered, would she be safe when he got out? Little did she know, the man who had tried to have her killed was about to enter her life once more in the most unexpected of ways.
Coming up.
He walked in the door. I stood up.
The children confront their father. A mother confronts her fears.
This is a scary place to go. I knew that he sought revenge. I watched him seek revenge on other situations. I knew that personality, and I knew how he felt about me.
Lorraine Roach was filled with panic the day her ex-husband was released just before Christmas 2000. It had only been a little more than a year since she saw him on an undercover videotape, uttering the word that would haunt her day and night.
Okay, do you want to just hurt in the accident?
Dead.
But Lorraine says she decided that day to face her fears and stop being a victim.
I had lived in a paranoid state for so long. I didn't want to live that way anymore.
Seeking refuge, Lorraine immersed herself in the lives of her kids.
Well, I was carrying around my own, pile of guilt. I mean, I made mistakes in my life that made my kids' life harder. There's no denying that. I felt like I needed to make that up to them.
But 2 years after her father's arrest, Lorraine's oldest daughter, Ryan, says she realized she needed more than just her mother's love and attention to regain the happiness she once felt. She says she knew instinctively what she had to do, but did she have the courage to do it?
I knew I needed a dad. He's the only one that I've got, and I wanted to have him in my life. That made it hard that he would do something like that to my mom, who I loved more than anything in the world. But I had to forgive him and love him just as much.
Ryan's biggest fear was telling her mom she was going to rekindle the relationship with the man who tried to have her murdered.
I love her. She's been my rock. And, I didn't want my mom to think that I was betraying her by going back to him. She said, "What would you think if I went and talked to Dad?" And, of course I have the feelings inside of me. This is a scary place to go. You're going to bring him back into our lives again. And that's a scary thought for me.
I mean, part of you must have wanted to say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
This guy tried to have me killed, and you will have nothing to do with it.
Oh, I thought that. And I felt that.
Did you say it to your daughter?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't think that I had that right. If she wanted to forgive him, as hard as it was for me, I couldn't tell her what to feel.
Ryan remembers driving around the block 3 times before finally gathering up the courage to go inside her father's house and wait for him in the living room.
And he walked in the door. I stood up and nothing was said. He hugged me and nothing was said. We hugged and cried and then started catching up.
Ryan's younger siblings had reconciled with their father too. But Will, the oldest son, held out. The memories of what his father had done still fresh on his mind.
It is not a secret that I would like to kill her myself.
I was wide-eyed and filled with shock. I was like, wow, that's not my dad. But of course, ultimately I had to realize that it was.
Soon, anger turned to hatred.
It was when I got 15, 16 that I started to mature physically. I thought I'd beat the out of him if I ever saw him. So just I'd hit him. Just to make him feel how I felt, you know.
Will sought refuge from his feelings in athletics, playing basketball for his high school team. But almost 5 years after his father's arrest, he too wondered whether he should give his dad a second chance. Will called his father, invited him to one of his basketball games. Jay showed up, was in the stands the next game too, and the next.
For the most part, I've forgiven him for what he did. He made a mistake, and he's paid his price.
Both Will and Ryan say their dad has changed from the desperate, scheming father out to kill their mom. They say he's more giving than he was before, and that they've grown to love him again.
Did you ever ask him why? Why did you do this? What were you thinking about?
I just asked him, and he said, I was trying to protect you.
Trying to protect you?
Protect us from our mother, yeah. Her values weren't as good as his morals, his standards, his lifestyle.
This coming from a man who tried to hire a hitman
Yes.
to kill your mom. Does it present a problem for you that you're trying to have this relationship with your father, yet he's never apologized for what he's done?
I think the relationship's worth more than that to me. I know what he did wasn't right. I know he shouldn't have done that. But if he doesn't understand, then I'm wasting my energy and damaging our relationship by beating it to death with him.
Jay Roach has remarried. All 4 of his children went to the wedding. Their mother found herself at home alone, contemplating a future that includes the man who wanted to see her dead.
That's when you dig deep down inside your soul and you say, how do I want my life to be?
I mean, you sit in the same bleachers with him at kids' ball games.
Yeah.
And have to look over and say, this is the guy who tried to hire a hitman to kill me. But now we're all going to cheer for the same team.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I've analyzed that, you know? My kids want him in their lives. So what am I going to say? Well, if he goes to those ball games, I'm not, then I miss out.
The love for her children, Lorraine says, will always be unconditional. And although she'll never be able to reconcile with her ex-husband as they did, she says that at least in one respect, she's trying to follow in their footsteps.
Have you forgiven him?
Boy, that is a tough question. See, some days I think I have. Forgiveness is a hard thing. Forgiveness is...
Do you want her just hurt in the accident?
Dead.
It's very difficult. Some days I revert back a little bit. But maybe on the whole, for me to be able to move on in my life, for me not to harbor bitterness and hatred, I have.